Hey everyone, I'm Tanya, and this is Black Women Read reviews of books, zines, and everything in between. I recently watched the excellent documentary Horror Noire, Blacks in American Horror Films. The enthralling documentary is now playing on Shudder, a streaming service dedicated to all things disturbing. The documentary is based on the book of the same name by author Robin R. Means Coleman. I'm ashamed to say that the documentary was my introduction to Coleman's book. As someone who enjoys horror films, I'm amazed I haven't read this book. It came out in 2011. The documentary does a great job of capturing the fascinating history discussed in the book. Coleman covers blacks in horror from the 1890s to present day. Of course, Birth of a Nation always pops up when talking about the history of film, as it's considered an quote unquote artistically advanced film of its time. But Birth of a Nation laid the foundation for the ways black people would be portrayed in films henceforth as the big, bad boogeyman. It also helped revive the KKK, a white hate group that for centuries has terrorized and brutalized black Americans. Coleman writes, "The Birth of a Nation's definition of blacks and blackness is extraordinarily troublesome. Viewers' initial introduction to blackness and the prompt to associate black culture with monstrosity comes when black Union soldiers arrive in the town of Piedmont as a marauding gang, looting and bringing destruction, as they enter the town like monsters, preying upon the white innocents." The documentary also briefly discussed the work of black director Oscar Micheaux. As an undergraduate student, I took a course on black American film and we studied the work of Micheaux. His goal with his films was to show black people beyond the racist tropes presented in films. Coleman states, Micheaux's films have been understood as quote unquote race movies and morality tales which have the dual goal of circulating a positive uplift the race message while showing blacks as complex and human, loving and good, flawed and weak, evil and forthright. There is a lot to unpack in the documentary, let alone the book. Way too much for this video. But I thought it would be fun to look at the cliches that black characters are often regulated to in horror films, as discussed in the documentary. We always die first. I was surprised when Coleman stated in the documentary that this isn't always necessarily true. We have a 50-50 shot of making it at least halfway through the film. And in contemporary horror films, black characters are surviving in the end, and sometimes even are the heroes. However, it's easy to observe in films we do die at a higher rate than white characters. Our deaths tend to be more gruesome, and the character is usually pretty forgettable. The best friend, Sidekick. Your rate of survival as a black character in a horror film increases significantly if you are the best friend, sidekick of the white protagonist. You might even make it to the sequel, as Brandy did in the I Know What You Did Last Summer series. I had to laugh when Rachel True, who looks delicious by the way at age 50, had to figure out different ways to ask, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Oh my God, are you okay?" as the black best friend to the random white girl in scripts she was given. True is known for her role in the thriller The Craft. The Sacrifice. The documentary highlighted Alfre Woodard's character in Annabelle as an example of the sacrificial black person. I remember when I went and saw that film thinking, why in the world would Woodward's character kill herself for those white folks? I would have gotten the hell out of there. They ain't my problem. The sacrificial black person is very common in horror films. It's often why we don't die first. We live just long enough to die later for the sake of the white character. Coleman notes in her book, in the films of the 1980s, blacks were pressed to enter into support relationships with whites and to display a value system of loyalty and trust that was generally unilateral. That is, there was no expectation that the kinds of displays of faithfulness emanating from blacks would be reciprocated by whites. More striking in this decade's horror films, a black character's constancy to whites is frequently evidenced by a willingness not only to pitch in, but often to die a horrific death on whites' behalf. Horror's version of the buddy film. Magical Negro. We all know about the magical Negro, the one who imparts words of wisdom before disappearing into the night. The documentary book explores the role of Dick in the movie The Shining and how he played both the sacrificial and magical black character. Although, as pointed out in the documentary, if he was so magical, if he had The Shining, why didn't he sense his death coming? Coleman states how the magical Negro never used their powers to save themselves or better their lives. The Horror Noire Blacks in American Horror Films was a wonderful documentary. It was a great travel through history on how black people have been portrayed on film, but also how, as always, we have persevered and flipped the table by creating our own creepy tales, from Oscar Micheaux to Jordan Peele, director of Get Out, and centering the black voice. The other day, I saw a trailer for the new horror film Ma, starring Octavia Spencer. It's set to hit theaters in May. It looks like Spencer will be making the lives of white teens pure hell. I'm here for it. As I watched Spencer's menacing glare cut from the camera, I wondered if years to come we will whisper Ma with the same fear as we do. Candyman, 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 Candyman. You didn't really think I was going to say it 5 times now, did you? Thank you for listening, and I will see you at the next video.